here we're going to look at multiplying two factors that have complex conjugates. So what do they mean by that? Is that notice this term and this term are the same, only one's plus and one's minus inside there. So the biggest thing to notice is this is still just FOIL. It's just that here's your first term, and here's your other first term, and then this whole thing ends up being your second term or your last terms inside each parentheses. So just be careful not to do too many things at once. We'll do first, outside, inside, last, and if any of those multiplications are too complicated to do while we're foiling, we'll just write down what we're going to do. So it's just being really careful, especially about signs. Alright, so if we're multiplying, our first two terms is x times x, so x squared. Now if I'm doing my outside two terms, it's x times this whole thing. Don't forget this whole thing includes this negative in front of it. So we'll end up with negative x times 3 plus 2y. And now when I do my inside, same thing, this negative with this parentheses times x, so negative x and 3 minus 2i. And then my last term is these two sets of parentheses. Now notice it's a negative times a negative, so outside the parentheses it'll be plus, and it's 3 plus 2i times 3 minus 2i. So notice how I'm probably going to have to FOIL these when I multiply them too, but just not doing too many things at once. We just wrote down our first, outside, inside, last. Now we'll worry about distributing and other FOILing that we have to do. So one step at a time for canceling things here. Alright, so if I distribute this negative x, I get negative 3x and negative 2ix. And then here I get negative 3x and positive 2ix. And then notice how the negative 2ix and positive 2ix will add to 0 when you get like terms together later. Alright, and then for this one we can FOIL. So first is 3 times 3, so 9. And notice our inside outside. One of them is 6i and one of them is negative 6i. So those also end up canceling because they're conjugates. You end up with that difference of squares kind of thing. And then my last term is 2i times negative 2i. So negative 4i squared. And then we'll clean up what we can. So a lot of stuff canceled already. I see negative 3x and negative 3x are like terms. So I have x squared minus 6x plus 9. And then this minus 4i squared. Well, remember I squared is the same as negative 1. And so instead of I squared, I'll write negative 1. So this is really like plus 4. So x squared minus 6x plus 9 plus 4 gives us x squared plus 6x plus 13. So just being really careful about signs because we have a few steps left there to do. And so it should simplify down to a nice normal polynomial.